How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Dude Ranch DIY. My name is Jake. We are out here in the woodyard today, and I just posted a couple hours ago the video of me delivering the 2 cords of green firewood. It's already doing really well, and we're getting some great feedback in the comment section, so thanks if you watched that video. And believe it or not, today I already got 2 more people interested in getting cords of green firewood, one of which is several cords, and the other that is confirmed is just 1 cord. And they want that delivered at some point next week, early week. So I'm out here. We're kind of in between rain and thunderstorms. It's been raining like pretty much all week, and they're calling for more rain coming this evening. So I'm gonna try and get a little bit of wood cut up, because as you can see, this is all that we have left cut up of the beech and stuff that I've been working on. I do have a couple other logs back here, one of which is very large and I think actually has some metal in it. The other are still pretty big, but a little bit more manageable size. Regardless, should be pretty easy to do with the help of the excavator. So that's what we're gonna get going on today. I've got to tighten the chain on the bar. Last time I was cutting, the tip of the bar got pinched between 2 pieces and the chain kind of dislodged a little bit. I was able to pry it back on, but it loosened up the bar quite a bit. Alright guys, so I decided with this video I was going to do a little narration. I was getting some comments on the past couple videos, people saying that they didn't like the music and the fast forward and the editing and stuff, and they just wanted to see some real-time wood splitting or processing. So here you go. For those of you that like the real-time stuff, I thought I would make it a little more interesting by narrating along with it, kind of explaining my thought process. So obviously this Beech is pretty big stuff. I was splitting, these larger rounds just going through the box wedge, but here I thought this log appeared to be pretty straight and not too knotty. The only obstruction in this piece was that piece of metal that you saw I was kind of trying to cut around, and I made it most of the way through and didn't nick the saw chain, so that's always a good thing. So here I decided to start spreading out the pieces a little bit and giving myself room with the intention of using the Eastonmade MS-324, the mini skid steer log splitter that goes on the front of the Baumalight mini skid steer, to help bust up some of these larger rounds and just quarter them, half them, whatever. Just get them, set up so that they're a little bit smaller and easier for me to manage single-handedly. So as you can see, I'm kind of placing them out. I would attack this, the way that they're oriented, I would attack them going from left to right, because you do have that cylinder that sticks out on the left side of the splitter. So you kind of want to work from left to right when you're using that thing. And here you can see I'm trying to use the thumb and the bucket to maybe pull out or break that metal. I think it was like a hook for a light or something, a lantern maybe. Maybe like a potted plant. But here I'm trying to pick it up and I'm going to drop it and see if I can just bust it in half. Right here. Which doesn't work too well. So now you can see I'm trying to use the teeth of the bucket to get in between the cut there and pry it open, and the log pops right open, and I'm able to separate the rounds and set them up for the mini skid steer. I gotta say, like, trying to stand up logs like I'm doing right here is definitely good practice, with just the fine tuning of the controls on this excavator, because that's a very, takes some finesse to get those puppies to stand up and stay standing. Alright, so I just fired up the Baumalight and now getting into position to try this out. Now, like I said, I have used this splitter before on Beech rounds, and it split them, but it definitely took everything that the Baumalight had as far as flow and pressure and stuff to get it split up. So we'll see how it does here on the Beech. I'm just trying to get some rounds out of my way. That's a smaller one that I'm trying to push out of the way, but you can see how that cylinder's sticking out on your left side without any protection really kind of gets in your way. If it had some protection around it, you could use it to kind of push rounds around, but it doesn't. And as you can see here, I am trying to split it in a couple different spots, only using part of the wedge, and it is not going through. Another downfall to this, and I think it's been fixed on the newer versions of this MS-324, but that back plate that the wedge pushes against is shorter than the wedge itself. So at times that back wedge will just push through the bark of the tree or of the piece, as you can see it doing right here, and the wedge doesn't split it, but instead that back fin goes through and it gets stuck. So I've already tried, let's see, 4 or 5 times here. As you can see, I get one right there, and it goes through, but the piece doesn't even break off the main round. So I'm gonna go in and try it again at a slightly different angle. No luck. Try it again. Because something that I found with using this machine is if it doesn't break or split at first, if you try and apply pressure at a couple different spots around where, the general area that you're trying to split the round at different angles, at times it will, help and relieve the pressure. But in this case, it just wasn't doing it. Well, guys, that just flat out did not work. So as you can see here, I spent several attempts trying to split this one round. I was successful in one split right there, but after all of these other failed attempts at different angles and parts of the log, I decided that my time would be better spent just cutting up the rest of this wood and putting it through the Eastonmade splitter, because although it is a little more difficult when they are this size, it does not take nearly as long as it was taking me to try and split this piece down into some smaller pieces, as it does to just send it through the box wedge. And yeah, maybe I have to rotate it or send back a couple of the outside pieces through for resplit. But I mean, Beech, I don't know if you guys know this or if you have Beech where you're from, but Beech is pretty tough wood. It's really tight grained, and it's very dense and heavy, especially when it's green. So I can't say that I'm really surprised. I just don't have the time to be futzing around with that. But hopefully we will have something in the future that might make using that Eastonmade splitter a little more feasible on this big nasty stuff. So with that being said, I'm going to hop back in the excavator and push all these rounds closer to the splitter, and probably just keep on cutting up a couple more logs. I hear some thunder in the distance, so I'm thinking we don't have much more time. See the difference the grip teeth on the thumb of the excavator make here. This is a pretty big log. I mean, this is a decent length, nice flare on the end, and it's actually not even using the teeth we added on. It's just holding it basically by the teeth of the bucket and the grip teeth on the thumb here. All right, guys, we are back a couple days later. I just got back from a concert, went up to see Fish at Bethel Woods Performing Arts Center up in Bethel Woods, New York, home of the 1969 Woodstock Festival. My first time going up to that venue. It was pretty cool to be, where Woodstock actually happened, seeing one of my favorite bands. So that was a fun trip. Went out with a couple of my buddies, saw the band last night, and we're back home bright and early. And I am standing in the dumpster can, as you can see. So I just came out and refreshed all of the orange dots on the inside of the can to designate or denote where one cord is. This can fills, when it's full all the way to the top, it is 2 cords of loose wood. and halfway is 1 cord. So this cord of beech that we were working on the other day, really nice stuff, as you can see. It's a 1 cord load, so now you can see, you know, you have a visual representation of how much more we have to do. I'd say we're pretty much just about halfway there. So I got this load of oak in the couple days that it's been since I was filming the beginning of this video, and it's, you know, it's decent stuff, not the nicest load in the world. There are some pretty nice, longer, straight, smaller diameter pieces down there, but we should be able to make some good wood out of it. I got a couple bigger, well, I guess really only just one bigger piece over there, and then some rotten stuff that came off of it over here. I was going to cut some of this oak up and mix it in with this load of green beech, but to be honest, I already have all this big beech here, and I really just want to get rid of it because this stuff is a pain in the butt to handle by myself. They're big pieces. You saw we tried splitting them with the mini skid steer. Did not work out all that well, just because they're big, gnarly beech pieces. So I'm gonna muscle the rest of these through the box wedge here on the Eastonmade, and this customer said that they didn't really care what species wood they wanted. They just wanted green wood and hardwood so that they could burn it in their stove. So that's what they're gonna get, full cord of beech. I really love having this gas caddy from Vevor that I got from them a while back. It works really well, and just to fill up, you know, the log splitter or to make some mixed gas. I think it holds like 35 gallons. I'll put a link for this thing in the description. It was super easy to put together, and you know, I can fill up this whole 7-gallon tank for the splitter in about like a minute, so it pumps pretty fast. All right, guys, I decided to try something new here. I'm going to continue doing the voiceover and just kind of walk you through my thought process with some of these big beech rounds. As you can see here, I rolled it on and it is in the log cradle, but I'm trying to get it so that the narrow part of the log is down. So you can see I just kind of reoriented the piece, and now I'm also pulling it to be closer to me. That way any of the big pieces that get split off the outer part of the box wedge, you know, like that piece I just pulled back, it's on my side, and chances are the piece on the far side, you know, is a little bit better sized. Now obviously you can see that in this case that the piece is so big that both pieces or both sides need to be resplit, so I'm dropping down the log lift, grabbing the couple pieces from the first 2 cycles and bringing them back over. Now I'm lifting up the piece to, again, try to maintain a narrower edge, you know, down towards the log cradle and the box wedge, which just saves on resplitting. But with pieces this large, it's hard to avoid. And as you can see there, the piece that needs to be resplit actually got caught up in the pullback arm and is keeping it up in the air. So for as much labor and, you know, effort as the box wedge saves, regardless, these big rounds, when they get this big and heavy, especially with one person, there's only so much you can do to make it easy. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a big piece of wood, and you see, you know, what's coming out of the box wedge is nice, square, consistent sized pieces of wood. So there's got to be some effort to get to that point, if you know what I mean. But once you get those first couple big splits out of the way, it goes pretty smoothly. Oh, spoke too soon. Piece rolled off there. So since the piece was on the ground and I already had these resplit pieces on the log lift, I just decided to just send those through. I noticed that the splitter is running a little slow, and that was because I didn't have it idled all the way up. So we're going to send these pieces through. And now I'm going to split the rest of the piece that fell off. And you'll see I'm sending it through with the wide portion down to just try and get it shaped in a way that wasn't quite so awkward. You also got to look at the wood itself and see the grain once it's split open, Sometimes you can kind of read the grain, and it'll give you an indication of the best way to, orient the piece in the splitter to give you, the cleanest splits, so to speak. And you can kind of like work around knots that way. So you can see I'm kind of holding it off kilter a little bit just to square things up with that box wedge. But, from such a gnarly piece, you can see those small pieces of firewood going up the conveyor, and they are perfect size, nice pieces of firewood out of what normally would just be a big gnarly piece of wood that I probably wouldn't bother dealing with. So now we're on to another big round, rolling it in there into the splitter chamber, the cradle, the log cradle. Now this one was pretty round, so I decided to just leave it as is. And you'll notice I send it through the box wedge a couple times, pulling off the big pieces that need resplit. And then usually after about 2 pushes through the wedge, I'll try and kind of reorient the piece to get that narrow side up and vertical. Oh, sending it through a 3rd time. And you can see I was looking at that piece on the right there to make sure that it wasn't going to get caught up in that pullback arm. And here we go. Now I'm trying to lift it up to get it situated to get that narrow end down. And these are some of the things that I've learned over time using this box wedge, particularly the pizza box wedge, because it does take so much force to push these big gnarly pieces through and make such small, consistent sized wood that it takes a little more effort to make the wood look as pretty as possible, but I think ultimately in the end it's worth it. Trying to pull out the pieces that need resplit so everything seems, to stay consistent. And sometimes I find myself climbing all over and taking time. But in the end, I believe it's all worth it. Rotating the piece one more time, and we're just pushing it through. It really amazes me how nice and consistent the pieces of wood are that come out of these big gnarly rounds, because you would never think that it would make such nice firewood. And the one big benefit, even though you see me manipulating, the piece every now and then, think about if you were to be using a 6-way or a 4-way wedge, you would split that huge piece into 4 still really big pieces, and you would have to send that through time after time again, and keep pulling back pieces to resplit them. Here, the benefit of having that pullback arm is that it does a lot of that work for you, and you're not chasing those pieces down by your conveyor or on the sorting tray of your log splitter to try and catch them and pull them back. The majority of the work is done by the machine and by that pullback arm, thanks to the pretty cool design of the box wedge. And here I am, just pushing through the last couple pieces that need resplit, and we'll be ready for another big round. Okay guys, so I sped things up 8 times fast here, but I wanted to do that because I think watching in real time you kind of lose sight of how big of a piece of wood you start out with and how quickly you could take that round and turn it into really nice firewood. Like you can see here, that was very easy for me to take that big round, and I'm already on to a second one. Rotate it once, send it through, rotate it a second time, and we're done just like that. We'll load up another one. And now these, granted, these aren't quite as big as the rounds I was putting through before, but you'll see I keep the round kind of offset closer to me, the operator. And that keeps the pieces that I need to send through and resplit a second time on the operator station side, so I don't have to stop and reach across the entire splitter to grab those pieces. So here's another big one. You can see I send it through like 3 times and then reposition it. And for the most part, there's very little handling of that piece of wood, you know, once it's up there. You know, you can see the machine just pulls it back, and just like that, it's gone. Well, all right, guys, we got plenty of wood split there relatively quickly. Those big rounds make a lot of wood. I was trying to not really manipulate those big rounds too much. I wanted to really show just how well this Eastonmade 2228 with the 7-way pizza-style box wedge. The pizza wedge is the smallest split size box wedge that Eastonmade currently makes. In my opinion, it makes the best firewood for the type of customers that I have here in southwestern Connecticut. And those were some huge beech rounds that I really didn't have to manipulate. We made some good progress on the pile here. All of these pieces, although quite large, have been going through the box wedge fairly easily. So, I mean, that's just, again, a testament to this thing. You can hear the machine's off, but the cooler still goes until it gets the hydraulic temperature back down in check there. But, yeah, this thing is awesome. Let's check out the dumpster can. We should have more than enough wood here to fulfill the cord order. Yeah, I think so. We're gonna spread that out, and that should be a hefty cord. These people should be very satisfied. So I am sitting in the far back corner of the dumpster can. Here is the splitter and the shelter. And as you can see, we have filled it up past the orange dots everywhere. And it's, you know, even higher in the middle. So I am very confident in saying this is a very generous cord of firewood. All really nice stuff, guys. Like, think about what was going, the pieces that I was feeding through the splitter, and look at these pieces that I'm getting out. Really nice variety. This is obviously a larger piece, an all-nighter, but then you have, you know, pieces this size, small. You have your typical standard firewood size piece. A lot of those standard firewood size pieces like that. And then, do you get some kindling and trash? Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? A lot of my customers love getting this stuff. They're like, oh, perfect. I don't have to go pick up sticks and collect them in the yard. I get kindling with this. I tell them to separate it, put it in a little plastic storage bin, and dries out and works great. So this guy will be very happy. So as you can see, we got the dumpster can out of there with relatively little issue. The only thing I got to do is fold down the grizzly bars to pull the can back up onto the back of the truck. Fairly minimal ruts. I know some of you said, oh, I should pour a concrete slab here. It would be easier. Yeah, that absolutely would be, and I'd like to do that at some point. I just don't know if this is always going to be the permanent spot that the wood will actually be going into the container. We might be changing things up here with some new equipment at some point in the future. However, from the top of the log pile, that load of firewood looks really nice. Definitely a generous cord of firewood. I also wanted to note all of my storage bins for scrap and stuff were empty at the beginning of this splitting session. So you can see in here, this is a small IBC tote, and this is the amount of scrap that we collected off the grizzly bars doing this full cord. This is the stuff that came off the bottom of the conveyor, all the really fine stuff. And then this tote, which really isn't all that much, is what come off, at the splitting wedge side of things. So all in all, I mean, yeah, is that a lot of scrap to create for one cord of firewood? Sure, but look at what you were making firewood out of, and then, think of how little effort I really had to, put forth here with this machine. Yeah, okay, sometimes I turn the rounds or flip them just to make it go through even easier, but is it necessary to do that? No. Do I take the time to do it anyway because it produces a better product? Yes, and that's, at the end of the day, that's why I, charge more for the firewood, even for green. And, I'm selling this green firewood by the cord for what a lot of people around here sell seasoned firewood for. And, people are still buying it. So I'm producing a good product, and this equipment behind me is everything, all that I have to thank for that. So I think that's going to wrap this one up, guys. I was away all day yesterday, like I said, at that concert, so I got some other stuff I need to do today. But now this is ready to go, and I should be able to deliver it one afternoon this week to her, as well as she's getting a large tote of seasoned firewood as well to kind of mix in there. So glad this all worked out. This Beech, although it's big, it is manageable with the proper equipment and tools and stuff. And this Eastonmade, splitter with the box wedge and pullback arm is just so great. So as always, guys, if you like the video, give it a big thumbs up if you haven't done so already. If you haven't done so already, click that subscribe button down below. I'd appreciate it. Questions, comments, feedback, put it down in that comment section. But for now, I'm Jake. This is Dude Ranch DIY. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you here next time.